All right, and we have started. Danny, thank you for coming back to do another episode. The last one was a banger. This one's going to be another massive banger. I think it's going to be even better than the first one. It was the most rated or most watched on my feed on my analytics. So I'm really looking forward to having you back and some talking about some cool ass shit that people apparently love to listen to. Um,
Yeah,
so
man. Thanks for having me back. It feels like I was just here. Time is just flying by.
we're in 2022, buddy. It's like it's not even real. It's a made up date like you see in like science fiction. That's what it feels like.
Absolutely.
So I guess today we're going to talk about Elon Musk, AI, and then possibly Planet X. I don't know if you're ready to fuck with all that stuff or what.
I mean, we'll see where it goes.
Yeah. All right. Where do you want to start off?
Yeah.
What topic do you want to?
Well, I don't know. We can touch on the robots if you want. AI. That seems to be like a hot topic this year.
Okay. I'll start off. So I think first it's important to distinguish the difference between AI and AGI. So AI, artificial intelligence, is generally like just kind of like the AI you get in an algorithm, your phone, like Siri, Alexa, all that stuff. Like that's like an AI, and people when they talk about that and they're talking about like fearing like the evolution of AI, that's not necessarily what they're talking about. What they're talking about is actually called AGI, which is artificial general intelligence, which would be something that is like closer to being human like. So when we're talking about I think we're also like kind of like intending AGI more or less. Um, yeah,
Yeah, like them being able to think for themselves.
almost like a consciousness.
Yes.
So, my biggest thing about AI, like obviously there's like the doom and gloom type of thing, but what I'm more kind of like captivated by when I think of AI or AGI is sort of like the companionship aspects of it. In that, not necessarily romantic, but like just like a companionship, sort of like, I don't know, a roommate or like some sort of like partner or like, helper, or like you basically have, like you could have like a sidekick more or less, like a companion, similar to like a dog, like a relationship with like an animal, right? Um, it's super. I don't know. I feel like this is like something that's not really explored or talked about a lot with AGI or like AI in the future. And it's sort of like we could start developing these really like intimate and like special bonds with like this artificial intelligence. And it's super weird because what they could do is with like the neural nets or like neural networks or like blockchains, they could basically incorporate that into the AGI so that all the experiences you have, all the conversations you have, all the like the searches you have or like experiences you have with this like AI or like a robot would be like making it special and different from all the other like robots out there that might be a similar make or model. So it would almost be like no two AI or no two robots would be the same, and like their experiences and like their like education and their knowledge that they have forged with you would not be easily replicated, and all that information would be stored on like this like blockchain or like this neural net, kind of creating its own
What?
consciousness.
Yeah, and then imagine now if it was like a hive consciousness where like that's the experience it had with you, and now I have my own having a whole different experience, but they're sharing what they've learned because they would have like internet access or whatever, be able to communicate with each other, right?
Yeah, so like they could have like a collective sum of all the experiences with every person, or like
Which would be incredible.
that's like a god mind.
Yeah.
There's like this I don't know if it's like a belief, but it's kind of like a speculative belief, or like I don't know, it's like a spiritual thing that some people kind of like, I think, give some like faith to, is that this is a little bit off topic, but it's sort of similar in that they think that if there is a god, that um, all the souls on the planet, or like all the consciousness on the planet, when they die, they go on to merge into like a collective like soul, and it's kind of like this like idea that we're all kind of one and the same, but we're all kind of just like we all become one at the end, and once it's lived every life possible that humanity could ever live, then that like god soul is now born, and it's like now it is like it's grown enough to now become a god or like a creator in the universe or something like that. And it's so it's kind of like looking at like humanity as like a sort of like an egg, like for like birthing gods, I guess, or like a god. I don't know, a little bit off track, but you could the parallel to AI is sort of similar, where like you have their collective intelligences all merging into one.
Yeah. Because if, we died and we're all going to the same place, then, yeah, I could totally see that.
Like the merger of like our collective consciousness, and then it just becomes like a super being that just like has experienced every type of suffering known to man, but also every kind of like joy known to man as well. It would be like, I don't even know. Basically a god. It would have like knowledge of everything,
Yeah.
right? I
It'd be
mean,
something beyond our comprehension, definitely.
what else could we talk about like for AI? Like, have you seen Blade Runner 2049 or like any of the Blade Runner movies?
Yeah, I have.
So like in that movie, instead of like robots, they're kind of like biological robots, and that they're kind of like cloned humans, you know, they're not supposed to be able to reproduce and stuff like that. And that's another interesting way of looking at like I guess like artificial intelligence. It's like biological artificial intelligence. I really liked that movie. It like a little bit off topic here, but it played off like a lot of cool like dynamics in it. Like a lot of people thought it was boring, but if you watch it like for like its symbolism, so it's a bit of a different kind of watch. So there's a character named Love in the movie, and there's a character named Joy, and they're two
Okay.
female characters, and how they interact with each other is sort of like symbolic of like how love and joy interact with like an individual. And in the
Yeah.
movie, spoiler alert, like love kills joy, so it's kind of like it's an interesting dynamic. uh there was like a part in the start of it where his boss is talking to him, and she kind of like says to the main character, which was Ryan Gosling, and she says like, do you kind of like guys even have like a soul? Like where do you go when you die? Does it just like shut off? They something like that, right? They allude to it, and he doesn't really know at the
Yeah.
time. And then later on at the ending of the film, he ends up dying, and the symbolism of it, he dies on a stairway, and the stairway is often used as like symbolism for like, like a stairway to heaven. And he doesn't die
Yeah.
at the bottom or the top of it, he dies in the middle. So I thought that was like some really also really cool, like, I don't know, cinematic like imagery. And then
Yeah.
there was another scene where like he's talking to like basically like a prostitute, and she's trying to like warm up to him, and she's like, and he's like a bounty hunter, right? So he's like a killer, and she's like, wow, you guys don't even smile. But then like he doesn't, I don't think he smiles for the entire movie. But then at the end when he reunites I can't remember the Indiana Jones guy, do you remember his name?
Harrison Ford.
Yeah, Harrison Ford. He reunites Harrison Ford's character with like his daughter, and and he's he's mortally injured, so he knows he's going to die. But when he's reuniting that character with his daughter, he smiles for the first time in the movie, which I felt was kind of like, I don't know, it tugged on the heartstrings a bit. It's like the only time he smiled was like for somebody else's like joy, and he never like found it in himself.
Yeah.
But yeah, that movie was the Blade Runner series. It's based off a book by Philip K. Dick in 1968. It's Do Androids Dream of Electric Sheep? So like, dreaming alluding to like consciousness in a way. I don't know. Do you think consciousness is physical, or is it sort of like permeates the physical world?
I would hope that it would like be beyond this physical world, but it's hard to say. Like, I know we touched on talking about Elon Musk, but he said that like in the near future, he would be able to download consciousness to like a hard drive. Like he's actively working on these type of projects. And if we then create a robot that knows everything, but then has basically like a soul, like did we create like a human that could live forever kind of thing? Because is it even a robot at that point?
It's it's
But
hard to say. Like, is it like a life form? It would be like a life form on itself, and it's like, the and does consciousness incorporate emotions to some degree? Like this this is consciousness separate from love? Is it separate from hatred? Or are those two separate things? And will this like artificial intelligence incorporate any of that stuff into its like makeup?
yeah, this is insane because it's like it's how you conceptualize like is your soul living in the body? Is the mind body soul all one? If like you die, does like that all die too? Does it go on? You know,
Yeah,
and to what degree is it physical and what degree of it is spiritual? And is the like AI experiencing the same thing?
it's like we've become gods ourselves and created something in our
Yeah,
image. It's very crazy. Like, it could, I think, going back to Elon, like Elon recently was talking about it, and he was saying like he believes consciousness to be part of the physical, because if you damage your like skull, like you get a concussion, you also like damage your consciousness. So he thinks it's like anchored into like, physics and like the physical world and the physical realm. But I mean, I like to always go back to like Socrates' quote is, all I know is that I know nothing. Like, we have the absence of like evidence, so it's kind of like, well, to be determined really on a lot of things like that. And I always see people always kind of chime into like that argument, and they say like, if consciousness is energy, then they kind of like start applying physics rules to like energy. It's like, well, energy can't be destroyed, it just changes its sort of like, composition.
yeah,
So, if we're
yeah,
electrical impulses, like what does that become? What's consciousness become?
yeah. I have no idea. But then it's like if you believe in ghosts and spirits that could come back, like is that really ghost? Are those really hauntings? Like some of it's pretty convincing when you see it on TV and whatever. But if that's the case, then how come we haven't figured it out? Maybe it's like part of the whole thing, you know?
Yeah,
It's like once you figure it out, like you're not supposed to be here anymore, kind of thing.
yeah, it's like some things like are too big for like us to know, or like it's the next step. But it's cool like when you think of ghosts, and like people like talk about them, and they see like a ghost at like a World War II thing, or like some old like military fort, and it's like these ghosts are usually
Yeah,
stuck doing like the same things they did in life. Like they're kind of stuck in like this like repeating reel where they're like constantly walking into like a graveyard, or walking into like a house, and like they're kind of
yeah.
performing the same mundane tasks, or like these are what people report seeing. And it's kind of like, is that like consciousness, or like that energy like imprinted, copied, or sort of like some sort of weird like echo feedback from back then, sort of just like repeating? Is it even a ghost,
Because
or
it
is it?
was so traumatic for them that it's like that their consciousness was damaged, and it's like part of that is left behind. Like
Yeah, like a shard of their soul, like a shard of their consciousness was just
yes,
like left there. It was like split, like they did some fucking Voldemort shit, and they just left it on that area, but like involuntarily, it was just from like, I don't know, this super like
Trauma.
consciousness experience or trauma.
Yeah.
Yeah, that could. And then I don't know, like maybe it's just like, I don't know, like a temporal thing, like a temporal distortion, like through time or some shit. And it was like our consciousness maybe somehow can permeate that barrier, and if you impact it hard enough, maybe you'll leave like an impression. I don't know. This is all very like speculative, and there's no one's gonna have the answers to this.
Absolutely. But like those are the questions that like, people as like a species have been trying to figure out forever, right? Those are the questions that keep you up at night. Like, am I going to wake up again? Is sleeping like dying because I don't remember anything? Like,
Yeah, man.
I
It's
mean, you can just keep wandering and wandering and fearing the unknown. But then the beauty of it is like you never know when is your last day.
yeah. I mean, and then you imagine if you did, like, how miserable that would be.
I
But
think that
then,
would take the beauty out of it. Yeah.
like, you could like maybe your life would be more meaningful because then you'd be like, okay, I got this many days. All right, well, now I know I'm not going to do this, this, and this. I'm going to do this, this, and this instead. And this is going to be a trajectory of my life. And you can kind of almost like adjust your life to like the amount of suffering you're going to experience based on it. But it'd be so fucked up, like as the days like dwindle towards, you just be like, oh fuck, oh fuck, oh fuck. Like you just you just be like living in complete
But
dread.
yeah, but back to not knowing what day would be your last. Shouldn't you live like that anyway?
Yeah, you
I
should.
mean, I know I don't. I have like
Yeah, I
we
don't
have
either.
obligations, we have routines, we have the things we
The
own
rat
on
race.
us, and the rat race and all that stuff, right? We need money to survive and all that kind of stuff. So
Yeah. I recently read about this. This is like another kind of like belief. It's not, it's like a spiritual belief. It's not like a religion or anything, but I think there's something to take away from it. I don't know if I've mentioned it with you before, but it's called eternal reoccurrence. And that it's sort of like, that like Ouroboros symbol, it would be like the head of the snake eating its own tail. It's sort of into relation to
I've seen
that.
the symbol. Yeah.
Yeah, and
Okay.
it borrows that symbol, and it's like um it's this idea of reincarnation. So, but instead of like being reincarnated as somebody else or something else, it's you're going to be reincarnated as yourself, and you're going to relive your life over and over again for eternity. And it's always going to be set out to be the exact same way, and you don't have any recollection or any memories from your previous lives. It's just you're eternally just reoccurring. It's like reoccurrence. And when you think of that, the takeaway from it's supposed to be you want to live your best life. You want to live like, if you have to redo it again, would you want to redo it? So make your life one worth redoing forever, because that's what you're going to be doing for like every reincarnation. So it's like when you hear that, it's sort of like a more spiritual version of YOLO. It's like it
Yeah.
makes you reflect on your life. Are you living a life
Yeah.
that could be like permanently relived over and over again, like a life worth living? And if you're not, maybe you should start. And it doesn't necessarily mean by being selfish. It means like you could just cultivate a really like meaningful and interesting life with friends, family, etc., etc. And then when you look back on
I
it
mean,
all, sorry, go ahead.
everyone would have different things that would be important to them, right? Like if my passion was gardening and yours was music, right?
Yeah,
And it would be a different thing for everybody.
yeah.
And I can't remember where I was going with this. Sorry, I cut you off because I felt like it was so important to say at the time to you.
So you're basically, what you were
Ah,
saying
shit.
was everyone would be living different experiences and different like meaning, finding different meaning in life. Some people would be focused on like art. Some people would be focused on music. Um,
Yeah, because it would all be important to them in their own ways, right?
yeah, and everybody be living their best life, and it's sort of like what's not right for you may not be right for some, or something like that, you know.
Yeah.
Um, then there's like we could talk about like the doom and gloom side of like the AI, and that it takes over and it becomes some sort of like threat to humanity. Um, I don't really know how like.
Yeah,
Sorry, go ahead.
they're talking about production level like Tesla plots this year. So, and he said he's going to try to make it affordable. So, like, you would have someone to help you do all the things around the house you didn't want to do, right? Like, hey, paint this room for me, right? Or cut the grass or vacuum and mop the whole house. It's a robot. It doesn't care. It has no feelings, right? So then if it's in everybody's home and then there is like there's a movie called Mother Android, there was like a code given and then the robot just turned on everybody, and then it was kind of like how Terminator kind of would have happened. The butler robot then starts killing people in the family, and eventually it's like a war of machines versus humans. But Elon Musk himself has said like, "Hey, we need to regulate AI and how we use it because it can be very dangerous if there's not sort of an ethical standard established like globally."
Yeah, right
Because
now
just
it's
say here in right now it's a free for all,
yeah, it's
and he
free.
says like it could be very dangerous, right? Like even Facebook trying to migrate to this metaverse. Have you seen any of this stuff yet?
Yeah, I'm sort of wrapping my mind around it, and I'm kind of like, this is going to get ridiculous.
Yeah, so he's saying like you're gonna go to school in the metaverse. You're gonna have business meetings in the metaverse. People are trying to buy metaverse, like I guess you would say like real estate in this virtual world to have like businesses and ads and things like that already, like in the millions. So it's gonna be so integrated that if they wanted to take over, they could do it so easily. They
The
basically we would
education
be like their
aspect,
pets.
the education aspect is really intriguing because right now they have basically like online learning, and it's like you can do an entire like school course and program, lecture, tests all online digitally. So there isn't really much of like a difference between putting on like a VR headset and going into like this metaverse, and like you're sitting down in like a classroom and you're like navigating it, and you sit down and you're actually doing a test, and it's like you're doing it from your home and you're doing like this simulated experience, and then you have probably like credits or something that you can use to go around the school or something and like participate in like stupid little like side games, or like it would just be, I feel like it's going to get crazy, but I don't think you could ever replace the actual like outside world unless the outside world became like very like dystopian and like uninhabitable, and like I don't know, like
Okay, so you remember the movie The Matrix, right?
yeah.
So when Neo first goes to the ship, they plug him into the computer in the ship, and then he learns kung fu. And then when he wakes up, Morpheus is like, "So?" He's like, "I know kung fu," and he's like, "Show me." And then they go fight in this virtual dojo. Could you imagine training like martial arts in the metaverse? You would know it without ever physically having to do it.
I w-
You could train your mind in a combat style art. You get without ever breaking a sweat.
yeah, that would be pretty crazy, but I don't know how effective it would be, like the transition from like
The
online to real
metaverse to
life,
real life.
because like I don't could they would have to simulate like resistance and like strength and like power, because otherwise you're just going through like the motions of the techniques, through like a
But if
controller
you think
or like
about Tai Chi is slowed down. It's the real moves, but slowed down to the point where it looks almost like a dance.
yeah.
Like. But if they were to use it sped up to 100%, like it's deadly, man.
Yeah, that could be. I mean, that's one way, but like you could never replace like a walk out in the wilderness, like interactions with wildlife. And I feel like the only time the metaverse would be like appealing to people that are like outdoor recreationists would be like the outside has like poison clouds and there's like nuclear fallout everywhere. So I have to stay in my like my shielded home with my, my metaverse helmet. And, is that the conspiracy theory leading into the metaverse is like they're going to shut down the outside? Like, is this going to be like, no, you're confined to your box, you're going to live in your cube, and you're going to eat insects like in Blade Runner?
Hey, there was a Black Mirror episode like this, and this like guy was like reenacting this Star Trek type of scenario, and he was stealing the people at work's like garbage and using their DNA to have clones of them in this Star Trek universe where he's like their
Yeah,
boss. But in real
yeah,
life,
yeah, yeah. I love that episode.
you
With,
remember that?
yeah, with the busted
Yeah,
ass Matt Damon looking
incredible.
guy.
Yes. So then, like, if you couldn't tell the difference, right? Like right now, it's in its infancy, right? It's like a
Yeah.
cartoon land, but like, what happens if it got to the point where you couldn't tell the difference?
Then, well, you know what they say: if there's no test you can do, which can determine something from being, different. Like if there's no actual test you can do to establish something is fake or not real, then it may as well be real. If it's, you know what I
Yeah,
mean? Like it's like a clone. It's
yeah,
identical, and there's nothing you can do to differentiate them from one another. Then it may as well be real. Like what? Like it's like
yes,
if you make an exact copy of like something down to the molecule, it's like it's the exact same thing. You know, I don't know.
yeah.
That's just like physics, I think, right? So it's like that's crazy. Um, I don't know. You got anything else to say about AI?
I mean, I have a Roomba vacuum cleaner, and this thing goes zigzags and bumps into the walls and, stumbles its way around my house. We're talking about having like robots, actual robots doing work within our near future, right? This is not stuff way out in the future. And the more like Siri, Google, Alexa kind of integration we have, like there's claims that these things listen to us, right? So think about how much data they would have to make it so realistic within the next few years.
Yeah, that'd be crazy. It's funny you mentioned the Roomba because I have this idea. My friends all wrote it off as being the stupidest ass idea ever. But I'm gonna say it to you. What if you attached
Okay.
a goldfish bowl to like the top of the Roomba or like something that was Roomba like, and you like integrated like a tracker to track the fish's movement into the bowl, and you basically allowed for the fish to navigate the terrestrial world by swimming in a direction, and then it's like the
In the
Roomba's
bowl.
tracking, yeah, like tracking the fish's movement. So like if the fish moves forward, the tracker would track that the fish is moving forward, and then the Roomba would then move forward. So in effect, your pet fish can follow you around the house. It could like greet you at the door technically if like this fish was like somehow intrigued by your presence, because like maybe it just starts to associate you with food. So whenever it sees you through the glass, it would just swim in your direction in hopes of food, and it would just be like highly food motivated to like always kind of pursue you and follow you around the house. So
Like, I don't know if you've ever kept fish as a pet. I don't think they're that smart.
they're not that
They
smart,
say
but
like a goldfish has like a 3 second memory.
yeah.
I don't even think they would appreciate the gift of being able to go wherever they could.
Listen, man, you don't know this. Listen, when you go to Big Al's, like the fish store, and you go put your hand up close to the tank, all of the fish collectively swim in like a mass herd
Yeah.
towards your hand because they're
Your hand
anticipating.
looks like a ball of worms.
No, 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 because they're anticipating because they're fed daily. They're anticipating that you're gonna drop food in to feed them. So what? Eventually, I think whenever they fucking see you, they're just gonna be like, "This motherfucker means food. Swim towards him, motherfucker." And then now you have like kind of like this companion like house pet that comes from a fish. And if you hook it up to a smart enough Roomba, maybe the Roomba could like clean the bowl for you too. Since it's cleaning the floors, it might as well like do the dirty work. I don't know. I
The
think it's
water
another.
change in the fishbowl.
Listen, listen. I want a Tesla bot with a fish bowl head. That's what I want. I want a companion fish. I think dogs and cats are overrated. We need the companion fish.
Well, I mean, I have a cat, and this guy, he ignores us all unless we're sleeping. Then he wants to meow at the door or jump on us in the bed. But the
Yeah,
rest of the time, he's ignoring us. We
brutal.
just pay the bills for him. He's the
He's the king
boss.
of the house. You're just the
Yeah.
help. Uh, have you seen the speculation about Elon Musk's or Tesla's phone?
No, I've seen like the video announcing it and how durable it'll be and how it gets solar charge. And basically, he wants to take on Apple because he says he can do it at half the price.
I mean, Apple is probably ridiculously fucking overpriced, and the
I
technology.
mean, I have the A 12 Pro Max, and this thing was like $1,600. It's insane.
Yeah, that's insane. So apparently he wants to call it the Pi phone, and I don't know if that's kind of like thumbing his nose at iPhone, and like I'm gonna call it something similar, and it's gonna be sort of like a play on it.
Of
But
course it is.
Pi's kind of cool because it's like that symbol for the calculation for circumference or whatever.
No, absolutely.
But how cool would it be to have like, so he's got the Starlink satellite system where basically you can get internet anywhere as long as you have that satellite dish in the world because its satellites circle the globe. Now, what if your phone
Well,
was
he
also
wanted
a
global
satellite dish?
coverage for the self-driving. Yeah.
Or like, let's say the dishes are installed into the car with some sort of antenna or something, and then you always have Wi-Fi on your car. Or what if your phone, like they just, I don't know, jack up the technology so then your phone acts as like a friggin' satellite itself, and then you're getting internet global roam wherever on the same rate plan, whether you're in Canada, the States, Mexico, or like Antarctica, like you're good. Like I feel like,
Yeah, like you're having a global internet plan.
yeah. So I feel like, I don't know. I feel like his like phone would would destroy the market. Like it would just like people would just be like, "Fuck yes, unlimited internet wherever the fuck I want." Fuck yes. But
Solar charging,
yeah, like
the best battery tech in the world. Like Apple doesn't make their own batteries. I think LG or Panasonic makes the batteries.
yeah. I mean, Tesla still gets some of their batteries from Panasonic and stuff like that for the most part as
They have
well.
an agreement with Panasonic, I think, for batteries.
Yeah, and then
And they just came out with that 4680 battery. Have you seen that?
yeah, it's crazy.
He replaced lithium, and he says it's like 5 times more efficient at charging and holding power.
Yeah, like
Like,
there's two different types of batteries now. There's like the nickel heavy ones, and then there's like I forget what the other ones are
yeah,
called.
he
They're
used
like L.
nickels instead of lithium.
Yeah. So it's a good idea to probably start investing in nickel, possibly, if that starts getting scarce at some
Yeah.
point, even though it's like widely available. But
Well,
the
think
Tesla
about it. We
website,
have cars, and now
sorry, the Tesla website, like it's selling portable phone chargers now. Like it's kind of like, I don't know, tipping its hat maybe, or tipping its hand to say,
yeah,
more
it's
to come.
coming.
Yeah, and then
Yeah, absolutely.
I don't know, Cybertruck seems to be like caught up in like production hell. It still hasn't started production. It was supposed to start at 2021 at the end of the year. And then they're saying, early 2022, but now the production dates have been completely removed from the website. So I have no idea what's going on with that. They do have the kids cyber quad, but of course that sold out within hours. It's a cool little like kids
Yeah.
quad. Um, that was kind of like a before Christmas release. I thought that was fucking really cool. That would have been sick for
Yeah,
for one of your
they just
for your
came out
kids.
with an e-bike.
An e-bike.
Yeah, my son. Yeah, they just came out with an e-bike. It's like
Tesla?
all these random things that no one knows. Yeah,
Holy fuck! I didn't realize that.
I know, it's crazy. Just like out of nowhere, these random products start showing up.
The belt buckle, the Tesla Gigafactory belt buckle. Um,
It's for all the cowboy Tesla fans.
yeah, and then I think eventually Elon's gonna. He seems to be a big fan of cryptocurrency and decentralized currency. He was allowing Tesla items to be bought with Bitcoin for a bit until they changed it. The reason they said they changed it was because a lot of the Bitcoin mining going on wasn't green, because even though it's using electricity, a lot of the electricity being used in China was actually coal generated. So if coal plants are generating electricity and then you're using cryptocurrency to from that electricity, then it's not inherently green. So we have to start. The world's gonna have to start using like renewable energy to mine crypto if we want it to be like the decentralized currency in the future. But
Yeah.
I feel like another big move for him, since it's like he's into decentralization, I think we might see with the Pi phone maybe a decentralized social media app. That might be a little bit too out there, but where you kind of like own like a part of the social media, like your account isn't is like part of a collective of accounts, and you can block and remove whoever you want from it, but like it's sort of like a metaverse type thing where it's like you own a part of it on like this like blockchain or something. Like the social media is like a part of the blockchain, and people can't like, there's no like CEO really of it. Like it's kind of like everyone just participates in it, and you sort of mold your own social media world on who you associate with, who you talk to with, what things you
I mean,
subscribe to.
with anything where there would have to be some sort of regulation, right? And who determines that? Because it would be something globally.
Well, correct. In the States, the laws are
Think
like,
about yeah, every state has different censorship laws, right?
yeah. Well, when it comes to corporations, they're like, it's sort of like the reason they like Twitter can ban whoever, or like the whole censorship or like freedom of speech thing. It's like, well, it's a private organization. They can have their own rules or whatever. You don't have to use it. So that's like the states' rule. But then like, Canada has its own censorship rules about, what can be spoken about, what can be said about, what can be broadcasted, all those types of things. So when it comes to like global regulation, it's going to be, you're probably going to see different versions of it in different countries, right? And how certain countries can interact with one another. So it'll be like,
Yeah.
but if it's decentralized and it's on like this like global blockchain, it might be like beyond control, and there you might just see like banning of it altogether in certain countries, because it would just be like, it would be dependent on where the majority of the infrastructure for that is. Is it like up to everybody's own individual node? Like, is your computer desk at home, the server for your um like
Wait, portion.
decentralized like social media? So it's like
Yeah.
your computer burns, your account burns, and maybe there's like a ghost of it on a cloud somewhere. But then it's like, where's that server kept? And it's like, is it in the States? Then it's probably going to have to adhere to the United States laws. But maybe it's kept in like some like offshore like island. Who knows? But further to the decentralization future like argument is the idea of like these virtual power plants that Elon looks like he might be gravitating towards, and sort of fulfilling Nikola Tesla's um, dream of kind of like free energy for all. So the idea
Yeah.
of a virtual power plant is basically every house will have like an installation. Sorry, we'll have like an installation of like a solar panel. You'll be able to generate your own energy. You'll have like the big battery blocks in your
Yes.
house. You'll be able to store
And
energy.
then you can give back to the grid.
You can give back to this collective grid. You can sell it off. You can give it
Yeah.
away. You can buy some. And so maybe we'll be using like fucking Dogecoin or Bitcoin or Ethereum as like a transition unit for like this decentralized energy. So people that have like really sunny days in certain parts of the world will probably have access, and they'll be able to sell it to people that live in cloudier regions or give it away. And then I don't know, it might be really cool, because then effectively you could have like a crypto currency that's backed by energy. And that's sort of like what's always backed currency, is sort of like the economic fuel behind economies, right? Like it's like right now, like our dollar is sort of like a petrol dollar. It's because fuel like keeps us warm. It lets us travel. It's a very like big thing. So if you replace fossil fuels with renewable energy, it's in effect the exact same thing, just like it's the same shit, just on a different pile. It's energy. It helps us, keeps us warm, and it gets us moving, and allows us to like do industry and stuff like that. So I don't know. I feel like
Yeah.
this idea of a virtual power plant, the decentralization possibility of energy, social media, and currency, buddy, it's like that sounds like a free future. Like, you know what I mean? Like, where I don't know, it could be really cool. And that's like a if the metaverse goes decentralized, awesome. If it doesn't, probably not as awesome. But there'll probably be competitors to the metaverse. Like Elon might have his own
Oh, there
metaverse.
already is.
Mark Zuckerberg will have his own
Yeah.
metaverse. Jack Dorsey will have his own metaverse. And it's kind of like, pick what game you want to play, basically. Like, are you playing Grand Theft Auto Sim? Or are you playing I don't know, Sims,
Well, when anything hits the market, like remember when VHS tapes, and then there was beta tapes, and one was backed by Sony, and then Sony ended up winning with the VHS. Same thing with DVD.
Blu-ray,
What
and
was
then
it?
there was that
HD
other one.
DVD and
Yeah,
Blu-ray.
yeah. The one
Yeah,
even, what was that one? Was it called HD DVD?
yeah.
It was
And
like
they
the
were
competitor
red.
to
And then
Blu-ray,
the
but it was
blue.
like for only like a year.
Yes,
And now it's like completely
yes,
memory hold and no one remembers it.
exactly. But like, so there's going to be multiple versions of a metaverse, right? Like backed by different companies. Like Apple's probably going to try to have their own. Microsoft will have their own. I think actually Microsoft is in partnership with Facebook for this one because they're looking at it from more of the business side, and Facebook's taking more of the social side.
Yeah.
But right now, it's in its infancy, so there's going to be competitors until one is globally adopted, or maybe certain countries will adopt one over the other, and that kind of thing.
Yeah. And then they talk about, there's Elon's fucking mission to Mars with the fucking Starship. Eventually, Mars is going to have a colony there. They're going to need a currency. Is it going to be crypto? Like, probably. And then, like, what's that crypto going to be backed by? Like, oxygen supply?
There for sure. The atmosphere is toxic. There's no water. It's methane gas. Like, basically, everything's going to have to be brought in. They're going to have to live in, like a glass biodome until they figure something out.
They're going
They
to
were
be living
talking about
underground.
putting, yeah, they were talking about nuking the planet to try to release some sort of an atmosphere. But they're saying because there's so little atmosphere now, by nuking it, it would just all go out into space anyway.
Damn, so that's not even a solution.
So that's not even a solution anymore.
Yeah, that, I mean, as long as we get a colony there of some sort that functions, I mean, underground might be cool. I mean, it's not like you're missing much on the
Yeah, there's going to
surface.
have to be some sort of like interlock system or Sally port system. Like you
Multiple
see in,
Sally
like, a lot
port.
of, like yeah, like in spaceship movies and stuff, where they're re-entering the craft from outer space.
Don't you think like a single Sally port system for like spacecrafts and like star bases is like very fundamentally flawed? Like, shouldn't they have like at least like 3 or 4? It's like if one fucks, at least you got like another one. I don't know.
Yeah, redundancies, right?
Yeah, backup plan. But yeah, I don't know. Like, what else can I say about Musk? Like, he's mentioned a few times about doing like Tesla Home, where you have like, like he's going to redo HVAC systems to get them away from like natural gas, so it's going to be electric as well. I mean, that still hasn't come to fruition
Yeah.
either.
So he actually says he's living in a boxable on the SpaceX base. So a boxable is like a tiny home.
Yeah,
So he plans on doing like a Tesla tiny home or modular type home, like a prefab thing or like a trailer kind of thing. That basically solar powered off the grid. Everything is like,
bro. If it was
renewable
affordable
energy.
and I had like, and I end up moving to like a place where I got the land and property, I would put that in my fucking backyard as a guest house, or like that would be like my like podcast studio. Would just be like this like little home or
Yeah.
something. Like I would just like whatever it was 40 G's or whatever it is, and it's like I don't know. It would just be fucking cool to have. Like here's my fucking shed. Like
Yeah, absolutely.
I would love it, man.
Like a man cave.
The
Yeah,
man cave Tesla home. We gotta get on the phone to
house.
Musk. We gotta let him know we got this fucking $1 billion idea.
It would be incredible.
I want to see like
But
cyber
he's got his
flamethrower.
hands in everything.
Yeah, he's got his hands in everything. I want to see like a cyber flamethrower. I want to see like a cyber axe, like a fucking like pre-order bonus. You get a fucking like axe, like you can use to chop wood. Throw it in like the rack on this Tesla
Or
truck.
like a doomsday machete or something.
Doomsday machine. Yeah, fucking. There's so many cool things that could happen with that. Um,
Yeah,
the fucking you saw the monkey that was playing pong with its mind with a Neuralink, right?
I did not, but that is incredible.
What the fuck? Okay, so he put the fucking Neuralink into the monkey's brain, and then the monkey was able to play pong with its mind. It was playing a video game. The fucking that was that like Atari, the original fucking Pong game.
Yeah,
It was playing Pong with its fucking mind. I think it was playing both sides. Like it was hitting the ball with one paddle, then hitting it with another. And I guess they trained it a bit too to like incentivize it, like it gets like a treat every time it fucking hits the ball. But it was doing it with its fucking brain.
incredible.
It's incredible, man.
I was told, well, not told. I seen a video on YouTube saying that they want to start human trials this year with Neuralink.
Yeah, so basically initially it's going to be for like people suffering from like, that are like neurological.
Degenerative diseases.
Yeah, and that's
Yep.
gonna dude, and that's like huge.
Alzheimer's, dementia.
That's huge, like a positive net for like people like that, man, because a lot of those people are desperate and they need something like that. And if it brings like a little bit more a semblance to like communication or like, you know, a quality of life to them, then it's a massive thing. But apparently it's like its long-term goal is to be like
It would be priceless.
to make people more appealing to AI when it exists, so that it would want to like have a way to integrate or merge with people.
Well, what he was saying is, if AI does it, like he says, once it starts, there'll be no stopping it. That it would advance so incredibly fast that we wouldn't be able to keep up unless we were somehow AI integrated as well. So I don't
Yeah.
know if you've seen Terminator Dark Fate. Dark Fate.
No.
The Terminator comes back to kill this other savior of mankind, and the person they send back is fighting the Terminator, and we're like, is this another Terminator? But it's actually a human that has had like cyborg type enhancements.
Oh shit! It
So
merged.
like it's like, yeah, like a halfway between a Terminator and a human.
Yeah,
And then they said everybody in the future is integrated because that's the only way we could fight them.
dude. There was so I was reading like this X-Men comic because this writer I enjoyed, Jonathan Hickman, like this was like given the mantle to it because I guess Marvel wanted like to reboot the X-Men and like give it to like this like really good writer, because for a long time they were giving it to like these like terrible writers. So I was like, oh okay, this is gonna be
Yeah.
fucking epic. This guy's uh Hickman always has like big sci-fi fucking like implementations into his like comic books. So I'm like, I'm gonna love it just for the fucking sci-fi. I'm like, X-Men's kind of cool,
Yeah.
but his sci-fi shit's fucking amazing. So dude, when he basically had this thing, so you know how the X-Men, it's like always kind of like the X-Men are fighting against like humanity, basically like the persecution through like the Sentinel
Yeah.
programs, and they're hunting them down with like the giant robots and stuff like that. Dude, this guy took it
Yeah.
like at the next step, and he's like, so like Magneto's whole thing was like, X-Men are basically Homo superior, and they're the
Yes.
next stage in evolution for humanity. And
Yeah.
this is like, you guys are just relics that will eventually phase out, and soon in the future everybody will be mutants. So this writer
Yes.
took it to the next direction, and he was like, okay, humanity ends up amalgamating or like fusing with like AI and the Sentinel programs and like all this stuff, and it's like they do like a fast
That would
forward
be
to like
incredible.
years in the future, and it's like it's kind of like this discussion is happening, or like this like narrative is like being told, and it's kind of like, the mutants thought they were the evolution of humanity, but really it was us all along. And it was like humanity being like, it was us, and like how they merged with like, the Nimrod Sentinel that was like some like super fucking Sentinel that like could time travel and shit.
Yeah.
So I don't know, like it's kind of like fuck. I'm like, god damn. There was a whole bunch of really cool sci-fi elements into that. It took the concept of a black hole and made it like a god mind, like kind of like what we were talking about earlier. Like all the particles are
Yeah.
like sentient and they can kind of like flow through like the galaxy and shit. And then like they just consume things and like add it part of their collective. I don't know, man. Sci-fi, fucking love it. Could go out all day about it.
Oh, absolutely.
I wanted to talk about. This is where we're going to get kind of into like pseudoscience, paranormal discussion slash. I don't know, but it's there is some anchors in reality here, so it's fun to talk about, and that's Planet X, aka Nibiru.
Oh man, the Return of the Anunnaki, 2022, published book, History Channel. Like they have me believing, brother.
They have you believe in Zachariah Sitchin. You know,
Yeah.
he was the one that speculated that, you know, there would be a planet beyond Neptune, and I think he called it Nibiru. He's the one that like coined that term, or maybe he got that from like the Sumerian text or some shit. But he said that it was on an elongated like orbit that was like 3,600 years
Yes.
long, elliptical around the sun, and that's why it hasn't been detected because it's just like really long wayward elliptical orbit that, you know, it's hard to see. But since then, there's actually been like a handful of people that have like released like research papers or studies on the possibility of like this uh like uh TNO, like a trans-Neptunian object. And 2014 there was like these guys named like Trujillo and Shepard, and they discovered this like, you know, like this celestial body called like 2012 VP 113, and orbital and some orbital clustering in the Kuiper belt and like different objects, and they crushed the math and like they calculated the fuck out of it, and it basically suggested the existence of a like a super Earth. And they don't mean like living planet when they say that, they mean like in size. So it's like 2 to 15, they said like 2 to 15 times like Earth's mass.
The size of ours. Yeah.
Yeah. So it's like a double the size of ours, or 15 times bigger. So it's kind of cool to see something that was talked about through like Zachariah Sitchin's like works by studying like ancient Sumeria, and then seeing in like the modern times like people crushing like math and like, you know, different like clustering
Working
in
it
the
out.
Kuiper belt and shit to kind of say, oh, maybe he's right. Maybe there is like a fucking Planet X out there. And then you know, that was backed up again by like a Madrid university. Like there was a bunch of astronomers that said there was probably more than one like trans Neptune object out there, or like at least one, like probably like one or two planets. And then 20.
So
Okay, sorry, I'll let you go.
yeah, on Christmas Day they launched the James Webb telescope, and they said this will have the capabilities of finding those planets that they believe are out there. They said it's like a $10 billion satellite. They just launched it, and for the next 2 years, they have it all planned out, 2 or 3 years, every minute that this thing is out there, what it's going to be working on. And who's to say they don't find this Planet X with this telescope? Because now they said that there's a planet in the habitable zone, like Earth, 4.2 light years away. And with this telescope, they'll be able to see like the surface of that planet.
That's fucking insane. That'd be so
Yeah.
fucking cool, man. Like, you know what's crazy about that? Me, a friend of mine, I was talking to him the other day, and basically the sister of his girlfriend, so basically his sister-in-law, apparently he was telling me she's an astrophysicist and that she was working on that fucking project. And the first thing I said to him, like, get her on my fucking podcast. I want to talk about some shit.
Absolutely, man.
I was just, but I don't know if that's gonna happen. But I'm fucking hounding him for it. I'm just like, yo, I'm gonna ask her about Planet X. Let's get it going. But typically, those people don't really like to talk about that stuff. Maybe like speculatively at a very surface level. But
Yeah, who knows what kind of like non-disclosure agreements they've made, right?
yeah. Um, what else can I say about Planet X? Like 2016, Mike Brown, he discovered that planet Sedna. Are you familiar with Sedna? It's like this really long elliptical like planet. It's tiny. It's a dwarf planet. Um, Basically, they wrote an article that corroborated Trujillo and Shepard's findings, and they estimated that there's probably um, a planet out there 10 times Earth's mass. That's based off of like their findings of like its interactions with like things moving in the, you know, Kuiper belt and shit like that. And yeah, I don't know. Like Mike Brown, like he discovered Sedna, and Sedna's on like this really long like elliptical orbit. So he was, I think it has like a 12,000 year orbit around like our sun. So he was basically saying
Wow.
like if something like Sedna can exist and it went undiscovered for like so long and was basically a fluke that he discovered it in the first place. He's like, how
Yeah.
many other objects possibly are out there yet to be discovered on these kind of like massive elliptical objects or elliptical rotations around the Earth?
And I mean, that's really what's so exciting about the James Webb Telescope because we're going to get those answers like soon.
Hopefully soon. It's a big fucking universe or solar system, buddy. Like I don't know.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely.
Um,
But it's exciting, that we're making progress.
yeah, and then okay, what about this? So, are you familiar with Nemesis? Like the fucking idea that there's like a companion sun to the like our sun.
No, not really.
Okay, so there's sort of like this. So the idea of Nemesis is like that there's a companion star to like the sun that we all know and love, and it's
Okay.
hypothetical in that it's possibly a red dwarf or a brown dwarf, which means it requires like infrared to detect. So they're not going to normally see it with the. I'm not sure if James Webb has the infrared like stuff on it, but if it does, maybe potentially it could discover this. Although it's pretty much been written off by NASA that it exists, but it was previously investigated to some extent. And the reason for this is that most stars in the universe are actually binary, like a large portion of them. They believe, and so another theory behind it was that a lot of mass extinctions on Earth seem to occur periodically every like 26 to like 30 million years, and they think that perhaps like this like companion sun or maybe even Planet X or somehow every 26 million years like it's coming through the fucking asteroid belt and it's just like slinging dick towards Earth, like there's just like rocks coming like crazy, and that's causing like this mass extinction events. But
Well, even to elaborate on that, they said if even like an asteroid or let's say another planet were to enter our solar system and it would change the gravitational pull of Earth in its relationship to the other planets. And what would happen is it would shift on its poles, basically causing all sorts of mayhem.
basically mass extinctions fucking shit up, massive climate
Yeah,
change, like the yonder dryas like effect.
like an ice age or a global flooding or who knows what.
Yeah. So there was a paper written in 2017 by Sarah Sadavoy and Steven Stoller, and basically it speculated that there probably isn't like a companion sun like to the Earth, like a binary partner, but it's like possibly could have been in the past, and that might be the reason why for the mass extinctions. So it's kind of cool to speculate that they like it, maybe it was a thing at a certain time, So I don't know. Just another little tidbit of information there to kind of like speculate on like the pseudoscience slash speculative science of like Nemesis, Planet X, and Nibiru. Like these, you know, I don't know.
Well, the crazy thing about it all, like science fiction becomes like science reality, right? So, like things we thought were impossible when we were children or even predictions for the future, like Back to the Future 2, um, or even Terminator 2, right? Like the rise of the machines was supposed to happen already. But a lot of things outside of all that extreme sci-fi stuff, but little things like cell phones and the internet and like, you know, having a robot help you do housework. Like this is all happening in our future, in our timeline.
Yeah. So it's like when we talk about like stuff that doesn't exist, it's like okay, cell phones
It
didn't
doesn't exist
exist
yet.
until they existed. The internet didn't exist until it existed. Um, and like even like with like what was that? There was like the coelacanth. There was that fish that everyone thought was like extinct for like a million years. They ended up finding it alive, and it was like that thing didn't exist until it existed, right? Like there's and
Yeah.
like that's what people say about Bigfoot and stuff like that. They're just like it doesn't exist until it exists, and then once it exists, it's like it always existed, and it exists now. Like in like so,
Yes.
I mean, I don't know. Like for the future, like there's a few things like I talked about in like previous podcasts on here. Um, they this is pretty interesting. It'll interest you. So they have these things called wafers, and they're basically like these little discs that are like made of like some kind of fucking weirdo material. I don't even know that apparently they can use to travel at like the speed of light or like approaching the speed of light, 25 to 30%. And they basically propel it on a laser. Like they just shoot it like through a laser, and it's they just send it hurtling towards like wherever the fuck they want. So apparently this wafer, it's like a miniature spacecraft, like a micro spacecraft, but apparently it can support up to like a gram of weight, like in theory. And they're
Okay.
speculating that they could send like incredibly small critters like tardigrades, like those water bears,
Yep.
or like ringworms,
Yep.
like nematodes. They could send them on those things, propel them to like the nearest star. So the nearest star, if they were traveling at 25 to 30% the speed of light, they would get there in 20 years. And they think they would be able to relay information back through like this method as well. And like, because like they could put like these water bears into like suspended animation and then basically reactivate them for when it gets closer to its thing. And I was just like, that's so fucked. I'm like, we're going to have ways of monitoring like other solar systems, like possibly.
Well, I believe they made like a robotic microorganism that can reproduce.
Yeah, so you could even throw one of those fuckers on there, and then drop a couple off every fucking few hundred fucking kilometers to like relay like information back. Like it'll be
Yeah.
very um like I don't know, like basic information, but it would be fucking unreal, dude. Like I don't know. I feel like that's like it was cool. Like I titled the episode like "Earthlings at the Speed of Light" or something because if you think about it, like
Okay.
everything on this planet is an Earthling, right? Like everything was born and bred here and raised here and originated here.
Yeah.
So like I'm an Earthling, you're an Earthling, your dog's an Earthling, like your cat's an Earthling, like the birds outside are Earthlings. Like everything here is an Earthling. We like to think of humanity as
Yep.
being like Earthlings, but like everything here, like even the plants are Earthlings, and it's like
Yep.
it just so happens that this tardigrade or nematode will be like the first Earthling to travel at like the speed of light. And I thought that there was something kind of like romantic or like endearing about that idea.
Well, they claim that that's how basically life was brought to this planet in
Oh
its infancy.
shit. What if it's just like
Yeah.
repeating itself, like some
Like,
other civilization just like
like,
fucking launched their nematodes and then with DNA or some shit, and that's what.
yeah.
Oh
They're
fuck.
saying like ice from asteroids contained those, what do you call them? Water bears. And that was like the catalyst for life.
Holy fuck, bro. Those things even look like aliens too. Like there's.
Yeah.
Could you imagine that's just how life is permeating? It's like all fucking water bears just like slinging through the fucking universe at the speed of fucking light. Just
Yeah.
going into like hyperstasis. There was also an article that like they thought they like quantum entangled one of them as well. Like I did a little bit of a podcast on that as well, but it's like disputed whether it was actually entangled or not. But like that's the first like living organism to be quantum entangled. Like the
Yeah.
future's coming at us fast, bro.
I really think so. And, with the pandemic and everybody staying home and us not really socializing in the same way we would, before the pandemic, I feel like all this stuff is happening so fast and we're all just locked up in our houses letting it happen.
I
Like we're not a part of it.
Yeah, I want to be a part of it. We're doing podcasts about it, bro. We're kind of we're spreading the word. We're getting people to be like,
Yeah.
informed. You know, we're doing our it's it's not a whole lot, but it's honest work.
Hey, I mean, we're all here to do our part, whatever that part may be.
Yeah. I don't know, man. We're over an hour
But
now.
that whole warning from Stephen Hawking, right? Like, we need to be careful screaming like, "Hey, aliens, we're here, come find us," because whoever finds us are most likely going to be way more advanced than us, and they could just come and take over, take our resources, enslave humanity if they wanted. So, like, that was his warning. Like, be careful how we go about looking for life on other planets. And I think with this James Webb telescope, that like this could be the start of the end. Like if that's all the prophecy, right? Like even all the Nostradamus predictions for 2022, like they are out there, brother. You know, and even if 10% of it's true, there's going to be some sort of catastrophic global event this year, one way or the other.
Dude, oh man, what do I want to say? I'm gapping now. Shit. What were you just talking about? I got COVID
The
brain.
Nostradamus predictions,
Before that, what was it?
Stephen Hawking's warning
Oh, yes.
to
Okay. So
humanity.
I've been listening to like theories on why there's so many, like they say like there should be extraterrestrial life out there and it should be far advanced than us because there's like so many stars and the universe is like X amount of years old. And they were spinning theories on why we haven't made contact yet or why there is like not apparent contact. And they were saying like
Yeah.
there might be like a super predator like life form or like organism or like race out there of aliens sort of like stalking down other civilizations or like cutting them off before they get too advanced or some shit. And they say like the reason why we're not hearing a lot of noise or making a lot of noise or whatever like from like other places or like getting notifications or like signals or like spacecrafts or like drones and stuff from other places, which we might be with the UFO sightings and stuff, but let's just pretend
Yeah.
that doesn't exist for now. But they were saying like the reason that's not happening is because all the other civilizations out there that are like highly advanced are aware of like the super predator that's out there, and we're all basically like sitting in a forest like keeping quiet behind a tree not to get attention from this fucking super predator. And the moment you start doing things to like connect and like send signals out and like travel and all this
It
stuff with
finds
like
you.
other it flags you basically, and it just like comes in and
Yeah.
hones in on you. And that's, they think like maybe there's a ton of life out there, but it's all like we're cowering in a forest together and we're just kind of like, yo, it's out there, like don't get its attention. Like, and then the moment you like come into contact with another civilization, be like, oh, you fucked up, like what? No, like you, now they know, and they're just gonna like fucking, yeah, I don't know, that's like one of
Yeah.
the,
Damned us all.
yeah.
Yeah. Wow.
Yeah, I heard
What a
that.
theory.
Yeah, I heard that theory. I was just like, fuck. Like, is that why it's like it's just like everyone's just like, shh, they're out there. Like, they're like, we're just lucky it's fucking huge. Like. But then the
Yeah.
moment we're like capable of like interstellar travel, all of a sudden they're gonna like ping us on their like universal radar and be like, oh, what the fuck's over here? We thought there was nothing going on over there just a few like a billion years ago. It looks like it's turned up something now. They just come fucking over and they're just like, all right, like whatever they
Well,
want to
Musk
do.
was saying, he's like, how come, someone else hasn't found us. Maybe the species basically goes extinct once they become interstellar.
Yeah, that's
He
like
said that
another big.
himself.
Yeah, that's another big theory too. Is that once you get to a certain point of advancement,
But
that like there's like this filter, this like great filter of like
and
you just get fucking filtered by like your own intelligence. Like you just destroy yourself. You invent that like atomic bomb, and then you're atomic bombing yourself. But there's like
who's to say it's not one and the same, right? Like you get to that point, you bring in the attention, and then that super predator comes and gets us.
yeah, I mean it could be anything, man. Um, it's
I
fucking
know.
crazy.
It's almost like they're making us feel like nothing's exciting, nothing's going on by keeping us locked up, in our homes and work and hanging out in your house. That's what we're all doing. But meanwhile, so much is going on. We're just all kind of ignorant to it.
Yeah, well, I don't know. I'm excited that hopefully there's like from this James Webb telescope and a lot of this stuff happening in the future that we have a lot more exciting stuff to talk about and like other stuff to bring up on the episode and like future episodes and stuff like that. I'm super pumped about it, man. Like I don't
Absolutely.
know. Like
Yeah,
all
man.
this stuff, all
Me
these
too.
like
It's exciting
all
time.
this technology, like it's fucking awesome. Look forward to. Anyway, man, it's been 70 minutes. I think we should wrap her up. I think we covered all our topics from Elon to AI to Planet X. Uh, any
Absolutely, man.
any final thoughts?
No, man, I was happy to do this again. I always appreciate, having these conversations with you.
Yeah, dude, I super
It just
appreciate you coming on
feels,
here and talk about this stuff because, yeah, I mean, you do it best, and it's always the most interesting and like, dude, I love talking about the shit. I could talk about it like all the time, and I like having a little bit of time, in between to kind of like gather the thoughts and some ideas and like different things come up. Kind of like the longer we wait. But yeah, man, I super appreciate you fucking doing this. It's awesome.
yeah, man, love it. I'll be back anytime.
All right.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah. So anybody, everyone listening to this podcast, you can, if you want to help me out, you can like, subscribe, hit the notification bell, sharing it with people you think that might be interested in this. It helps out the podcast and grows the channel a lot. If you're enjoying like a lot of this content I'm putting out, obviously supporting me helps me continue to do that. You can find me on Instagram at Epyon Explores, EPYONEXPLORES. All right, everybody. Thanks for listening. We'll see you next week. Cheers.